Good Charlotte. Good Charlotte were one of the really big commercial pop-punk bands at the turn of the century. Along with bands like Simple Plan, they were as manufactured as you could get in the genre, and instead of maturing and not following new trends in the popular rock scene, as the trends changed, so did the band, to mixed success. Although at the time of their release, most of their albums have been very successful, very few of the songs from them have had a real lasting effect. But songs from their second and even third albums are still staples of rock radio. Tracks like The Anthem, Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, and Girls and Boys being virtually inescapable if you listen to modern rock. They have received a lot of criticism because of how their aims were simply to be successful and how some of their songs capitalise in pretty shitty ways, including writing songs about darkness and suicide instead of trying to help people just to cash in on people with serious issues. Although I used to be a fan when I was going through my whiny pop-punk teen phase, I feel like I've kind of grown out the band. I started to see the band for who they really were and started to stop enjoying some tracks. Although admittedly, if a track from say The Young and the Hopeless comes on, I will listen to it and maybe even sing along. There's no denying that I still like that album, but I'd say it's more out of nostalgia. As for the rest of the albums, I feel like tracks have been hit or miss. The first album was decent, the third had a couple of really solid tracks including Predictable, one of my favourite pop-punk songs ever, but for the most part wasn't great. Their fourth album was atrocious, and although their fifth album had moments of maturity that we'd never seen from the band before, there were also songs like It's Her Birthday that just completely ruined it. After a 4-year-long hiatus, an album from the Madden Brothers, and a feature on that atrocious song for Pixels, we have the band's new record, Euphoric. If you're going into this album after hearing the track Makeshift Love, hoping for a catchy pop-punk record with similar sounds from their first two albums, you'll be incredibly disappointed. Euphoric continues on the band's series of commercialized style changes. When emo became big, we got the Chronicles of Life and Death. Then Good Morning Revival just tried to be as pop rock as possible, and Cardiology was a weird mix of just pure pop and actual pop-punk. Euphoric is exactly the sort of album you'd expect from the producer John Feldmann being behind it. Look, I have nothing against John Feldmann. Goldfinger are a great band, and despite producing albums by 5 Seconds of Summer and producing All Time Low's terrible Future Hearts, he has produced some really great albums, but this album is definitely not one of the better ones he's produced. But before getting into why it isn't good, there are a couple of things I like, mainly in the first two tracks. Yep, the album actually peaks at the second song. Pretty damn good if you ask me. The intro track, Life Changes, is actually pretty good. It's a fun and catchy pop-punk song. It's actually what I was hoping from the band. Even though I'd say their lyrical content is definitely terrible on the early albums, there was something that I liked about them. And what I liked about those albums is brought back on this track. It's catchy, has some pretty solid instrumentation, it's just a fast and fun explosion. It's a great way to introduce you to the album. Although, am I the only one who thinks the melody in this chorus sounds a little like In These Arms by Bon Jovi? I also like how the track starts with the exact same guitar interference sound that was at the beginning of Little Things on their first album. It's a nice way to bring you back to the band, calling back to how the band originally introduced themselves to the world. The track has the anthemic sound that John Feldmann is known for bringing to Blink-182 on California, but it works better on here because for Good Charlotte these anthemic sounds aren't really anything the band haven't done before. If anything, this is an expansion of something they've done before but never quite perfected. The next track, Makeshift Love, was the comeback single for the band, and when I heard it, I was really excited for this album. This track is exactly what I expected the album would be. It's definitely incredibly overproduced modern pop-punk, but it's really fitting for the band because that was basically what they were in their heyday. The track sounds fantastic, the production is really good. This song is super catchy, it's definitely one I've had stuck in my head quite a bit since it came out last November. I've listened to it probably hundreds of times at this point and I'm still not bored of it. It's actually, in my opinion, one of the best tracks this band have ever done, which is why the rest of the album is so disappointing. Next up we have 40 Ounce Dream. This track is absolutely fucking atrocious. It's the worst track on the album, the worst track this band have ever done, and one of the worst songs I've heard this year. Look, the rest of this album is bad, but at least it's just mediocre and forgettable. This track is flat out terrible. The track is Joel singing about nostalgia. He sings about remembering when rap music was on the radio and was good, when MTV played music videos, and how all the punk rock stars of the 2000s are now all grown up. I think we established with Owl City's Unbelievable that songs about nostalgia rarely work, and this is one that really doesn't work. The instrumentation isn't too bad and the melody is okay, I guess, but these lyrics are so unbelievably bad that I just can't excuse this song. After this we have the fourth and most recent single, Life Can't Get Much Better. This track is a slow ballad, but similar to Home Is Such a Lonely Place from California, it lacks a lot of emotion. It feels like it's trying to be that epic lighters in the air anthem, but it really doesn't work like that, and it isn't like some of the other ballads that are slow but then explode and get really aggressive like Hold On did. But honestly, this track is pretty catchy. Although I don't see myself going back to it and listening to it loads, it's one that I can listen to and somewhat enjoy. If it comes on shuffle, I may or may not skip it because it's really not that bad, it's just not the greatest. The rest of the album after this is super boring and forgettable. Like 4 tracks in and the album doesn't have another song that I feel is worth listening to. Everything is just so throwaway. We have the track Keep Swinging, which is pretty boring and features a really terrible guest appearance from Kellen Quinn from Sleeping with Sirens. The track Reason to Stay is definitely better and has a much better guest appearance, this time from Simon Neil from Biffy Clyro, and this is coming from someone who isn't even a fan of Biffy Clyro. Stray Dogs is awful. The lyrics are just so cringy and ruin the whole thing for me, and the instrumentation is nothing special. The interlude Stick to Your Guns is probably the only other track that kind of stood out to me. It's not amazing, but it's decent and I definitely enjoyed it for what it was. Every other track is just so bland, I just really did not enjoy it. Although I would say this is not as bad as Good Morning Revival, which had no good tracks whatsoever, this is definitely one of the worst albums the band have done to date. So if you're one of the many people who hate this band, then you will really despise this album. Also, am I the only person who noticed the fact that the final track has almost the exact same name for the final track on the Young and the Hopeless minus 1 letter? Pretty original guys, 10 out of 10. I give Youth Authority by Good Charlotte 3 out of 10.